Good afternoon. This is Al Otero, the president of the Global Trade Chamber and the chairman of the 100 Successful Women in Business Network. We're very excited to be with you today. We have so many exciting things going on for 2023. And as you know, we've been through a lot in the past few years. So this is a perfect time to reignite all that we do because people have been on waiting and people have been dealing with a lot of challenges. But that is no longer the case. 2023 is a breakout year where we have a whole year of activities to connect you, to empower you, to promote you across the United States. But also, we're doing events in other countries as well. So this year, we're going to have our roadshow of Women Business Expos that's going to start in Miami in March, and it will end up in either San Francisco or Las Vegas at the end of the year. But in between, we're going to take a few side trips. One is going to be our annual Women Successful Women Convention that we do every year. This year is going to be in Mumbai, India. So we're going to bring women from many nations to India to network, to learn, to present their topics of expertise. We're going to have fashion show in India. We're going to have also our annual awards that we recognize 100 women from all over the world. You cannot miss that. It's going to be incredible. And through the show, you're going to see websites and things you can see. The other thing that we're going to do this year, which I'm very excited about, is that we're going to do our Global Trade Awards event. And right now we're planning on doing it in no other than Puerto Rico. How many people have been to Puerto Rico? I love going to Puerto Rico. So our host at the event, stay tuned for the date. It'll be later on in the year, but we're going to be hosted by no other than the incredible Ana G. Mendez University, which is one of the finest global universities on the planet. And it's one that actually has a bilingual curriculum. And today we're having a very special webinar and seminar presented by Ana G. Mendez University. And Ron, let's bring on Ms. Dr. Francisco to the stage. There you are.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to Florida.
Thank you.
You're in Puerto Rico.
Well, welcome to Puerto Rico.
I love it.
Bienvenido.
Yes, gracias. So we hope to have an event there in the third or fourth quarter. So we'll keep you posted. You're going to be a big part of that event at Ana G. Mendez. Dr. Francisco Montalvo is an MBA, has several other titles. He is an academic practitioner with over 30 years of professional and academic experience. Amazing. He is got more knowledge than most people I met, both in the private sector, but also at a university level. So he is very knowledgeable and with some of the big companies in the United States and around the world. He was the co-founder of New Way Solution Consulting Group. It's part of the Global News, which is a network based in Switzerland, right?
Yes.
Wow. And you are have been the coordinator of the World Economic Forum, which is a major event in Puerto Rico, correct?
Yes. They're actually meeting right now in Davos in Switzerland. I know that a little controversial nowadays, but it's the World Economic Forum. Yes.
Wow. So that you really had some important activities. And you work with the IMD Global Competitiveness Center and that's
And
where.
in Lausanne, Switzerland too.
Okay, excellent. And of course, most
Global Economic. the rankings. Yes.
Oh, beautiful. And also a very important and incredible companies, Deloitte and Ernst and Young, which is two of the largest in the world. Tell us a little bit about your time with them.
Well, I spent over 12 years with the we used to be the big eight. Now they're the big four.
Wow,
And I was I stated I when they were still auditing, and then I went through the transition to consulting. Deloitte, KPMG, and Ernst and Young, great companies to they were leaders in their area of expertise.
that's incredible. So that's quite the background that you have. There's much more here, but I think we only have about half an hour. And you worked in academia for some time as well.
Uh,
And
yes,
you
yes,
worked in
over
academia.
many years over yes, University of Puerto Rico, University Inter-American University, but I teach at the doctoral level at the Ana Mendez University in Gurabo, the School of Business and Entrepreneurship. So
That's great.
and I always say I hold a doctorate of management. Things I always am very proud of my university. I went to school in Case Western Reserve in Ohio, in Cleveland. So
Wow.
I know everybody makes jokes about Cleveland, but I really like Cleveland. So
Really? Wow.
okay.
Well, good thing you're back in Puerto Rico where the action is. Yes, Ana Jimenez is a tremendous
Uh,
university. They touch a lot of countries. You have students all over the world practically online. So a fantastic place to be, and we're very proud to be partners with them for many years, and we continue to grow together. But we want to hear your presentation today is extremely timely. It's how to manage really life in turbulent times, right? Is that a good summary?
mhm. Yeah, in fact, we use the word disruptive, almost chaos,
Disrupt.
chaotic times.
Yeah, it has been. It has been. In our lifetime, we've witnessed some incredible things. 9/11, which almost changed the world in so many ways, and then COVID. So I can't believe in our lifetimes we have seen so much going on around the world. But you're going to give us some great information on how to manage those times. We're going to ask our team to put on the PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to stay in the background and ask some questions. So, floor is all yours, Doctor.
Okay, well, thank you again, and good afternoon, and hello, and buenas tardes to everybody, all my colleagues in Spanish speaking world. So, mucha, encantado de conocerles. But this presentation will be in English, don't worry. So,
Good.
again, good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate this opportunity from the Global Trade Chamber, and obviously in part with the coordination with the Universidad Ana Mendez, Gurabo, and the School of Business and Entrepreneurship. Uh, and again, I want to perhaps start. You probably remember President John F. Kennedy once observed that the word crisis in Chinese is composed of two characters. You're probably aware of that. One is representing danger, and the other one opportunity. Oh, there's a lot of controversy in the sense that probably it didn't have quite the linguistics in its place, but the sentiment is true enough. The crisis presents a choice, and this is particularly true today. Prioritizing innovation today is the key to unlocking post crisis growth, which is I really admire that you're talking about a breakthrough year and 2023. And there's a lot of opinions of what's going to happen this year, but we're looking for growth in terms of post crisis or post pandemic period, although the technically is still going on. Given the situation, it is important to understand the meaning of innovation and disruption. So that's what I'm going to be trying to attend in this presentation today. So next slide, please. Okay. So rapid change and instability That's the new normal. And in fact, as you know, last November, the Collins English Dictionary named perma crisis as the word of the year, which is crisis all the time. And we're talking about the World Economic Forum. The now meeting in Davos, they forwarded a term called polycrisis, which is many crises at the same time. So in effect, as you know, and as Mr. Otero was saying, we live from one crisis to another. COVID-19, war in Ukraine, energy crisis, extreme weather events, obviously inflation, and that's just to name a few. Next slide, please. Okay, and Yogi Berra, the famous Yankee manager and baseball player, is to one saying that the future ain't what it used to be. And I always like his line. I put these quotes, and it is a perfect way to describe our current situation, and they need to rethink the way to understand the future. It's not linear. It's not a step by step progression. No longer applies, and this is definitely. That's why I put this. I like this way of looking at it. Is that not even a challenge and change and even a shakeup. It's total disruption of what we used to know, and definitely we're not in a. If somebody still is in its comfort zone, definitely you're in a little trouble because we're definitely going a very. Next slide, please. Okay. Okay. And definitely we live in very interesting times. In fact, there's an alleged Chinese curse, which a lot of people don't know this. It's in reality was an American politician, I think, back in 1939, that stated that they said, "May you live in this interesting times," which is life is better or at least more comfortable in uninteresting times because there's peace and tranquility versus interesting times where there's a lot of times of trouble. And a lot of analysts and even historians talk to us about that we're going through basically a tipping point in history. And a lot of the current events, obviously, you see inflation, you see the international politics, and all the energy, artificial intelligence. And one thing I did put there, people don't talk about, there's the Prime Minister of India, and you see he's talking to the prime minister of Japan at that time. But the thing is, a lot of when we talk about major world economies, and we talk at the time when we talk about how we see economies in terms of gross domestic product, purchase power parity, which a lot of economists will tell you that that's the real way you see the economies. Whereas India basically is today the third economy, third economy in the world. So it's the global economy, right after, in fact, China, or in that sense, it's a little bigger than the U.S. And the third one is they're coming up very rapidly at this subcontinent. In fact, it's going to be the most populous country in a few years as China. In fact, it's a population growth has basically stopped. So we're the whole look at Eurasia and especially the subcontinent is going to be a major world player. So definitely business people, especially business people, and I know students in the online, we have to handle and we have to understand the situation even prosper in these times. So next slide. And in fact, I got some friends who are much more experts in artificial intelligence. The thing is that we could be for an hour, we could the whole day I'm talking about that, but it's really changing the way we do, or well, we live. Anyway, you probably heard this one. This is a concept which is not new. Buka times, which is originated way back in 1989, 1990 by the U.S. Army War College, and it was, as you see, it stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity and ambiguity. That's the world that after the Cold War, which I lived through, and then I can remember. I guess for other kids, that's Asian history. But I think this concept has gained new relevance to characterize the current environment when we live, and leadership is really required to navigate successfully through this period. You need to understand what this the BUCA really stands for. And the next slide, we in fact there's being because of the term was coined almost over 30 years ago. Then we come with a new term. Let's see, that's okay. The next slide, let's see. It's called Bani, and this is even worse. This was coined by a futurist by the name of Jaime Scasio, and he updated the framework. Now it's Bani for brittle, anxious, non-linear, and even incomprehensible, which is obviously has to do a lot what we're talking about disruptive situations. And so basically we're going through a very unstable, almost chaotic change. So, but both Buka and Bani offer us frameworks that we can use to decode what's happening around us, and obviously to events. And in essence, Brittle stands here for in the way how to handle this. They talk about Brittle has to do with becoming more has the capacity to be resilient, which is one word people here in the Caribbean, obviously in Florida, know what we're talking about, especially extreme weather events. And anxious, obviously, how we need to be more have more empathy and mindfulness of what's going around us and our colleagues and friends and communities. And non-linear, definitely we have to understand the context when things are happening, occurring, and then trying to adapt. That's like Mr. Otero was not trying, adapting, like Mr. Otero was already stating. And then incomprehensible for to how to deal with that. In fact, we're gonna get a little more in detail how we can. At least we'll be finding how to deal with these situations. We requires a lot of transparency and intuition. Okay, next slide. Okay, so what? Just going through Buka again, but I'm a little more and more specific. Volatility. It means accelerated and unpredictable change. Okay, next slide, please. I go a little more faster here. Uncertainty. What's that? It means the inability to know everything completely. What will happen is only probable. And this is something people, especially in leadership positions and management, have to really take into heart because we're taking and making decisions with incomplete information. And I know we all want to make decisions with the most complete information and most objective information possible. But in fact, we have to make decisions with the information available. And so there's we're going to be discussing in a little while risk involved to live with risk. Thank you. Complexity. Okay. So okay. Let's see. In fact, the many parts are interconnected and interdependent. So everything is moving parts. That's a very important situation because a lot of current situations are in flux. There's a lot of moving parts and everything's moving at the same time, and it's not linear. So it's and I probably especially for my students in business, they when they present their business projections, everything's so nice, no? So like a 45-degree, always going up. I never seeing projections going down, but
Right.
definitely they're very formal and they're elegant, and but in fact everything the way we move and business moves, it's sorry, Mr. Otero. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the key word here is unpredictable. Really, it's we just don't know what to expect around the corner. and that's a challenge for business people that are so
And then
used
we
to things.
yes, yes, and we would like to have a predictable environment, but we have to live with this situation and take search and the things. Obviously, there's a lot of opportunities out there, and then obviously engage them. So that's why we understand volatility, ambiguity, uncertainty, complexity. Definitely, we can we can handle it in a much better and more positive way. And then the last one, the you I just the A I just mentioned it, ambiguity. It's that's a little typo there, but the quality of being open to more than one interpretation, and that's something which we talk a lot of diversity nowadays. There's many ways people um, can interpret a situation in many different ways, and so we're making decisions again on the information you have, and sometimes it's not the whole picture, and that's why I like that. I like that diagram because uh, there's a lot of fog. And in fact, there's a famous treatise in war, which is from Karl Clausewitz. It's a Prussian general. We talk about the fog of war, and that's a definite. So we could even say the fog of business nowadays because we have to make decisions, and well, that's the best we can see out there and go for it and move along. Is a even if it's chaotic, uncertain, our competitors are doing the same thing. They're moving, and if we don't move, they're gonna move. So it's a very it's an environment which is a very
I think that
and next I'm sorry for
before we had all these crises, the companies that really stayed the course were the ones that adapted and changed consistently, because the world is always changing, not as drastic as it has in the past few years, but it has always been change. So the companies that decided not to adapt and not to change all the time are the ones that are not around anymore. And the ones that always adapted and changed are the ones that have survived. So now you multiply that thousands of times, that you have to change even faster and with less notice or planning. So you really have to, and like you said, it's not just you, it's all the companies on the same boat. So you have got to become very fast on your feet now because of all this crisis as we've been facing.
no definitely and you made me think. Now you made me think about two quotes. One from Alice in Wonderland. You remember the Queen was always running, no? And she's we have to
Yes.
keep running as fast as we can just to stay in place, which is something like a contradiction, but that's what she meant. You have to be moving, and and also if you take the Fortune 100, the famous Fortune 100 companies, and you don't have to go really back way back 10, 20 years ago, examine the list, and you're going to see a very different list today. A lot of the big players are gone, and then we have a very different situation. So it does. That's why it's like um, this slide talk about new realities. A lot of our people in technology have seen this. This is the famous S curves, which is they used to talk in terms of the long big life cycle of a company. S curves describe technology, especially of movements in terms of technology and timeframes. And as you can see, the timeframes have been compressed, and a lot of it's so fast. In fact, we're talking about consulting. Many of our clients, or in terms of long-term planning, is 24 months, basically 2 years. That's long term. We can't. It's so difficult to make. I used to plan for 3 and 5 years, and once I have a large agricultural client out of the Dominican Republic, used to do sugar, one of the big sugar um, plantations, and they were doing a 10-year plan.
Yes.
And I remember when almost full say, how can you do a 10-year plan? I can do scenarios, But to have a very specific plan for the next 10 years, wow, it's really pushing it. And that because it's so difficult. And in technology, 1 year is long term.
Yeah, it's a.
So
I
next
remember.
slide.
I remember exactly what you say. That people, companies used to plan for 1, 5, and 10 years. I remember that way back when, and you didn't even know if you're going to be alive back then in 10 years. But that was the way it was. That's the way it was.
But you need a more stable environment to do that. And the way we do long term planning now, it's basically scenario planning. And even then, it depends on the assumption making these scenarios. So next slide, because then I want to come to, so what's the whole this? What was the definition? So what I
Oh, I
mean,
love it.
we have established a context here. What's innovation? It's a buzzword, or is something very real? And then next slide. I give, oh, at least I'll give you my definition. Innovation.
Good.
Innovation, by definition, innovation involves the intersection of many issues that you can see and this is actually these are this from different experts in the field. Then and I just pick a number which is very interesting. uh, Turning an idea into a solution that adds value. And I sometimes I'm also critical of all this because a lot of these terms become buzzwords and like value. What's value? And I always see that it depends on your client and what they think it's value. But the second bullet point, I think it's very important. Innovation. You can see innovation as staying relevant. We have to stay relevant all this complex world we live in. And then comes in creativity. How can we think of something new? How can we think in a different way? Non-linear thinking again, and then obviously implementing, executing. And other experts talk about innovation is the future delivered. And other people attack the whole issue about innovation. They say, "Hey, there's too much talk about innovation. The whole thing is just let's go back to basics." Basic, the company, good service, your people, especially your people. And you know that as a well here and a lot of places around the world, they have a very challenging situation in terms of recruitment. Uh, I serve many industries, and one of the industries that we work with is hospitality restaurants, and there's a big problem. They
Big.
just basically can't find people to, and against what happened, and a lot of people through the pandemic period discovered that they could work out of the corporate environment, and a lot of companies we know they're trying to get their people back to the office, and in fact universities talking about academia now they're trying to get the students back to the campus, and a lot of students don't want to go back to campus,
I don't want to go
which is
back.
which is no, and sorry, and which is a big challenge if you have all these buildings and obviously complex. The things this situation is going through in different sectors. What is disruption? So in the other on the other hand, and I like this two the different definitions. One is disturbance. It's a problem. It's an interruption that it's an event that happens, and it's an action that basically completely changed the traditional way we do business, or we the way we work. And although a lot of people talk about new methods of technology, one of the things that I'll be talking about that innovation is not only technology. So there's a lot of issues that are really low tech in terms of innovation, which comes out as a surprise to many people because a lot of people equate innovation with technology, and it's not always the same.
No, it's not.
Next, okay. And one thing is that I studied the whole thing about national competitiveness. That's what I mentioned. We mentioned the World Economic Forum and also the IMD, which is University in Lausanne. They're the ones that do all these competitiveness rankings of countries. and I've
Mm.
been there, being dealing with a number of years. In fact, Puerto Rico used to participate with the World Economic Forum, and now we're coming back with the IMD. But I want to see that one of the things that we've been observing is that innovation has a lot to do with national competitiveness and impacts the competitiveness of countries. And in fact, a lot of things situation. One thing I always tell them, a lot of especially students and also my clients, the United States is a very complex country. It's in fact it's a group of regional economies. It's not like one big economy. You see, it's different. But interesting, U.S. is an innovation powerhouse. Still an innovation powerhouse. I say still because according to the most recent global innovation index, is another ranking that it's done by INSET, it's another university, and Cornell University. Switzerland, South Korea, Singapore, and many of the Nordic countries, including Sweden, compete heavily with the US in terms of innovation. And
Mm.
when talk about competitiveness, if you're able to innovate, you have the ability to compete. In fact, we're talking about an improved quality of life for all citizens in the country.
One thing that
Next slide.
I'm thinking about when you talk about innovation, I mean, we have no clue, most of us, how much IA is impacting every area of our life. It is mind boggling. And we don't know that it's going on all around us. And in some cases, it is, if not replacing humans, it is actually minimizing the number of people involved in certain jobs because of artificial intelligence. You look at medicine now, all this robotics and all these things that it used to take a
Yes.
room full of medical people. Now it's a few people with a bunch of technology, and they're doing heart surgeries, they're doing brain surgeries, all using technology, and the recovery is 10% of what it used to be. It's mind boggling.
I do a lot of work in the health field and also have primary healthcare, also some hospitals. And through the pandemic, they were the first line of the defense there, and they went through this chaotic. Definitely, they lived through that, and and one of the things that we saw is the surge of telemedicine and telehealth.
Mm.
We can attend people far away for obvious reasons. We couldn't have people, especially there's some areas where very susceptible to that, like mental health care, the
Oh yeah.
psychology, psychiatry, but
Mhm.
also a lot of the things we in emergency room, we could do it far away, and it opened in terms of the accessibility. But you have a very good point. We deal with artificial intelligence every day, and in fact, we deal with robots, and we even when you call a company. I always tell them when you go and check in at the airport, the little kiosk. It's basically a robot. And the things we don't, we
Yes.
don't, we don't the things we think about movies, which is, but the kiosk is you're the artificial intelligence, and they give you. So they're part of our lives, and interesting talking about the life cycle. A lot of analysts think we're still in the introduction cycle, not even the growth cycle. We haven't even seen what artificial intelligence is going to do.
No.
I hope
It's,
it could work for us. For a lot of people also get scared about this something, but
yeah.
in fact, slide I want to establish the interesting disruption. Maybe the new economic driver. If you can manage through, if you can learn to manage through short-term issues by increasing your company's readiness in terms of, and I know it's controversial, especially in the U.S. A lot of the economists understand that we're heading into a recession. In fact, probably Europe is already in a severe recession, and other parts of the world. And the thing is, you prepare for that, and you seek and position yourself for near term opportunities without losing the long term view. Then you're one many steps ahead of your competition. So disruption is not bad. It's change. In fact, we could even think if a lot of the great inventions of today came from this disruption. In fact, the radar, X-rays, computers. In fact, where a lot of the were perfected during World War II. They
Wow.
came through because of this situation, and the and a lot of things we for today we take for granted in 4 or 5 years. That's the term. That's that time period. Change also brings opportunities, and obviously we want to be ready for them. Okay, so
Very.
we can. So what? Sorry, I think that. But go ahead, Mr. Otero.
Yeah, the point is that we have our young people are so different from the past generation because they grew up with laptops and computers and software. I mean, they are so advanced in managing this new world that they don't have to worry about the future because they're already in it. So there, it's an amazing change of how, in such a short period of time, we have gone from driving a car to self-driving cars in a very short period of time. It's incredible.
No, in fact, I don't know, probably you and myself are from the baby boomers generation or Generation X, and we were called we migrated into this world by millennials and especially Generation C's. The world when they were born in a world where the internet was always there.
Yes,
So it's obvious there's gonna be, so for us it's something new. Still for a lot of people it's something new, but this the world we know today is it's part of their everyday life. And the in terms of profile, how can what type of leaders are we looking for, or what characteristics you should be exhibiting or at least learning in terms of in this type of environment? Well, one thing is you have to be open and flexible. In fact, you have to thrive in types of change. And if you don't like change, my God, you're in the wrong place. You're
long
gonna have
time.
a lot of during there. We have a bad time because you have to be open and flexible to new situations almost every day. And also, I talk to this a lot to a lot of my clients, especially CEOs and presidents. Uh, you have to be more participative, attentive, and become very good listeners. You have to listen to your people, to your client, to your environment, and and sometimes you really have to take their cue. And especially talking about young people, they have different outlook, and definitely you have to be attentive and have a be a good listener with their issues and situations. And obviously, the whole thing about innovation, you have to be creative, but also have to be a little intuitive. And and the other one, as I mentioned before, you have to be more a risk taker. And daring. If you're risk averse, and it's gonna be an uphill battle because we we're now living in a world when risk takers have are a better position than the risk averse people. And let me tell you, that's that when I mentioned I used to work with auditors and consultants. That's one of the reasons why we part ways, because one, and nothing to do with my accounting friends, but the way they were trained is averse. You want to
Yes,
the especially the assets of the company. You have to take care of them. Consultants are terrible. They're national risk takers and they want to move fast, and
yes, yes.
so they thrive in change. And
And
and also you have to be much more resilient. We talk about being brittle and volatility. You adapt to change, and obviously you if you are capable developing the development and developing your people and teams, you're in a much better position to be competitive and successful. And you have to have a proactive mind and outlook. Okay,
very good.
okay, and
Yeah,
this
do you
goes
have
also to
a?
to the organization.
The ultimate
Go ahead.
risk taker, I think, is Elon Musk. I mean, you talk about risk taker, unbelievable. He loses billions
Oh, yeah.
like it's a $2 bill. Unbelievable.
No, there used to be a, I think it was not him, but ay, Dios mío, from Branson from Virgin. He says the best way
Yes.
to be a
Yeah.
millionaire is to, yeah, yeah, you're losing your billions, not you're becoming a millionaire, not a billionaire. No, but, and I'm sorry again, there's a little more, uh, there's a little type of their, it happens with PowerPoint. But
It's
the thing is
okay.
that the
Okay.
same thing in terms of also apply to companies, organizations. And when we say organizations, we mean private sector, public sector, third sector. It happens. This applies to every type of organization, small and big. You have to be aware of change to become more agile and flexible, responsive to change. And in fact, today I was one of our client, big client here. They're in the insurance business, insurance brokerage business. And things they found to rapid to adapt their teams, they have a very open culture in transparency and collaboration. They do communicate a lot. And I come from very different cultures. In fact, like sometimes academia is definitely not open in the sense, and I know attack to them, but things it's more traditional. And here they're open to everybody's opinion, and I imagine everybody has an opinion. The thing is,
Oh,
they're more transparent, and in fact, that opens they're being able to move much faster than the competition because of this type. It's interesting as a finding, and always obviously align your fast, be faster, move faster, and then again we go to the whole issue of being creative and as mentioned right now, as a minute ago, you have to have a flexible structure, and especially I also do work with government. A public sector has a lot of trouble in this area because
yes. I
sometimes
know.
structure really manages strategy, and it should be the other way around. And so, go ahead. Okay, next slide, please. So all this sounds very nice, but it definitely involves a lot of risk. And a lot of companies do make mistakes when they talk about innovation. First thing is innovation is a one size fits all. Innovation is like a big buzzword again. And let's do innovation, but we don't really know, understand what it means, especially for us. As I mentioned, for some clients or for some companies, it means a very structural change in terms of the culture. For others, does involve the way they deal with clients. Other has to do with the processes, internal processes, and this obviously has an impact in finance. But so, as a second point establishes, a lot of people just leap into innovation, without without really focusing on creating a culture of creative and critical thinking. And all this, as we mentioned, with a lack of strategic alignment. We're just doing innovation for the sake of it. In fact, everybody's doing it, so let's do it. And as I mentioned before, innovation is not just about technology. It mostly has to do more, as you were mentioning, Mr. Otero, people and technology.
Yes.
And that's what we're learning because, again, technology has their limitations. And people like to jump straight to a final solution or innovation or final innovation. And then you have to go through the creative and critical thinking stages. You have to think about this too. And obviously, it's a challenge because we're moving fast. So, but we have to think about it. And again, there's no clear way how to manage risk in terms of innovation. Next slide, please. Okay. And again, as we mentioned before, one of the first things steps we have to do, or we have to take, is to define clearly what's innovation in your organization. Okay, and as I mentioned, examples from a number of organizations has to do with their organizational culture, and that's the core, and that obviously that uh, impacts the way they deal with their clients and the outside world. And the second point is very much related. There's an external focus on the users and customers. And one of the things that a lot of very successful innovative companies that they go out and find their niche and new markets, so they can really create and deliver value in these markets. And in fact, it could be the market you're already a player in. And so sometimes, and this is it's interesting. You could, it sounds like even going back on your what we're talking about. Sometimes innovation doesn't mean doing something totally new. It means something doing what you do much better. To so there's different types of innovation, and one is incremental. And obviously, you have to learn. It's continuous learning. You have to upskill your people and your organization, and obviously support throughout the process, and enable again the whole thing about how can we can collaborate and how can we deal with people and technology across the different boundaries. And so, as you were clearly saying, especially for the new generation, they're more adaptable to this. But people from our generation, I include myself, sometimes we're still trying to deal with this new world, which is not so new, of change. Next slide, please. And also expanding on this, it's obviously we have to adapt and really, in fact, a lot of companies trying to do something which will sound even illogical. How can we anticipate customer needs, even the ones that our customer hasn't even expressed? And if I remember, I used to work with in the hospitality, and one a very famous Ritz Carlton uh, 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 or principles was that we fulfill our the needs of our clients or our customers, even the ones that are unexpressed ones. And they try to, what they're going to say is that you don't even have to express your needs. We're trying to identify them, and then and then try to anticipate it, which is very, very difficult. But if you do that, and you're capable of doing that, definitely you have a much better position to against the competition. And also the next ones are basically, you have to do this all this at speed. You can't stay put, and being quick on your feet. It's very important.
Yes.
And I guess the last point is that in all this, you're building a foundation for post-crisis growth. In fact, there's a lot of negativity with all this disruption, innovation, and I think you should be positive in the sense that growth is coming, and we're going through this situation, and see the world as a post-crisis, and then you're going to be much more competitive position. Next one, please. I'm trying to stay in time. Okay, and then there's just other ways of doing it in terms of we talk about dynamic shift in terms of the competitive advantage, which by the way, this is a kind of a holy grail in terms of strategic management and planning. We now know competitive advantage is transitory. It's
Mhm.
something that changes. So the way we sell, the way we offer our services and products and services, and the customer behavior, as we saw through the pandemic, change quite a lot in terms of the way we communicate it, especially through technology with our clients. And if sometimes now backwards, now we want them to come back to our premises, and visit our companies, our stores, etc. But we still have to be compliant with their needs. And obviously, since there's a lot of competitors coming in, and so we it's again, this you have to be very dynamic on your feet, and be able to change quickly. Go ahead. Yes.
I think that This
This is just rapidly. Yes,
Yes, I think that what people need to realize is whatever the plans are, be ready to change them at any moment.
yes, yes. And this is one, and this is a leader in design driven innovation. It's a famous it's a leader. It's Roberto Berganti. He also teaches at Harvard, but he's from the Politecnico di Milano in Italy. As you know, Italy, they're world leaders in terms of design, and they define innovation in different terms. There's incremental innovation. There's also disruptive innovation, but it's also radical innovation. And sometimes when incremental is full, it's basically what the user wants. You identify what your client wants, and you provide them to them. But you can even push your solutions, and sometimes they're game changers in terms. And definitely, for example, in fact, the example he uses, Berganti, in terms of game changers, a lot of the more Generation C's and millennials will know. He uses Nintendo as a game changer because the way they were the one introduced the Wi-Fi wireless in an industry which, by the way, it's very big. It's much bigger than even the movies entertainment industry, and a lot they had new users, people that were using the machines, because the concept is not war. They're not. You could use them without being attached to the to the machine. Next one. Just some more slides, and then we can go ahead for questions and answers. Next slide, please.
I like that.
And it's okay. And obviously, one thing I think is being aware that disruptive innovation can hurt you if you're not the one doing the disruption. You have to be the disruptor. And obviously, it goes from innovation, we involves could be doing some things a little better. So through going through doing new things, and then doing things in a way that makes everything else obsolete. And then you become the disruptor. Next slide, please. And these two slides have come from different were done by McKinsey and Company during the COVID crisis. But I think they're very relevant because they did a study in terms of the time series historical, and you can see that the uh, history suggests basically that uh, companies that do engage in innovation outperform their peers during a recovery. So if you're prepared and you innovate and you can move fast, you outperform your competitors. And next slide, which is basically identify essential characteristics or actions in terms of to how to. That's they talk about COVID, but I like them because basically in post crisis period, you aspire you have to aspire to innovate, use your the time, and obviously what areas you're going to be innovating, be able in terms of creativity, discover new ways, evolve, which sometimes even revolutionize because you have to move very fast, accelerate, which is the next one, and then obviously you could even do pilot projects in terms of scale, or you can do extend this new ways of doing business and doing things in your organization, and then obviously just execute, mobilize the whole thing. And I would like to perhaps end at least the presentation in a quote. I like quotes, and I like this one very much. Next slide. Which is I like this definition for innovation. For innovation, and it's often disobedience without a happy ending. It's
I love that.
in Spanish will be aprender a portarse mal o, o pedir perdón no, antes de pedir permiso. ¿No? So you just do it. And I guess I know I advertising another company here. Just go ahead and do it. And sometimes today it is obedience. Tomorrow you're an innovative leader. So take risk. Is perhaps the
Perfect.
and learn how to live in this world. So thank you very much, and I hope we still have time for questions and answers. So
That was outstanding. Thank you so much, Doctor. This is people need to hear that there's hope and that you have absolutely got to be flexible and adaptable. Change on the dime. You have got to adapt because if you don't, you're going to be left behind. You may often not even survive. So it's not a question of uh, competitiveness, it's also a question of survival.
yeah,
Adapting quickly and being flexible. A lot of companies I've seen over the years that just went away because they did not adapt. And they said, why break it? Why fix it if it's not broken? But that's not those days are gone. That doesn't exist anymore. The same as job stability doesn't exist anymore. So many places are changing, banks are merging, so people are going in and out of jobs like never in history. So the good news is that you give us hope. You give us some great tips, information on how to change your way of thinking. If you are not changing your way of thinking every day and looking for new and innovative ways, uh, you're not going to survive. We have 3 minutes left, 2 minutes left. So I wanted to thank you. I know we're going to make this available. This is, you give us a one final sentence is going to close this with a positive thought.
well, I guess I'm gonna take your word. It says that if ain't broke, don't fix it. I guess go ahead and break it. Be innovative and take risk,
Yes.
and be very positive about the future. I know everybody's talking about crisis, and but we're gonna go through this one as we went on in the past, and then follow the opportunities after the crisis. So and move fast. So become the disruptor. So and I guess thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm very happy to say hello when you come back down to Puerto Rico in the future.
I can't wait. Dr. Francisco, we thank you for your time, your knowledge, and your great information to help us get through the next week. We're now looking at weeks, not years. And I want to,
Well, at least the next period. And also thank you to the Ana Mendez University for this opportunity, and
yes,
obviously
yes.
the Global Trade Chamber. Again, thank
Thank you, Doctor.
look forward to
Energy
the next
Mendez.
our next.
Oh, it's going to be February. We'll have another webinar from Energy Mendez. We thank Energy Mendez, our great friend there, Cindy Nazario, and of course the president, Jose Mendez. That's a great friend and supporter of our organization. But you guys are there always to equip us and make us better at everything that we do to be successful. So thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Energy Mendez, and we look forward to seeing you in February, and look for all of our events across the country and around the world. Have a wonderful day.